There is a system, one that's been used by millions of people, to completely rewire their habits, making the good ones feel automatic and the bad ones almost impossible. Now, this has nothing to do with willpower or some sudden burst of motivation. In fact, that's probably why you failed before. This is about a proven framework for change. So, in the next few minutes, you are going to master the four-law system that makes success feel almost effortless. You're going to see exactly how tiny little shifts can lead to absolutely life-changing transformations. And you'll get an action plan you can start, well, literally today. Look, relying on sheer grit is a losing game. Understanding how habits actually work, that's the secret to inevitable success. Let's dive in. So what's with this number? 37. This might just be the most important number you see today. Seriously. Because this is how much better you can become in just 1 year. And what does it take to get there? Just a 1% improvement each day. I know, it sounds way too small to matter, right? But behind this number is the incredible, unstoppable force of compounding. Just like interest in a bank account, your habits compound over time, and the results? Well, they become absolutely staggering. And this is where the math gets brutally honest. On the right side, you get just 1% better each day, and you're nearly 38 times better by the end of the year. Your skills, your health, your knowledge, everything just multiplies. But now look at the left side. This is the danger zone that most of us just completely ignore. Getting 1% worse doesn't just halt your progress, it practically wipes it out, grinding you down to almost nothing. It's that daily pizza instead of a salad, scrolling for just 10 more minutes instead of reading a single page. These are the quiet, tiny, seemingly harmless choices that eventually snowball into a massive problem. Does this whole cycle sound painfully familiar? You get this huge burst of motivation. You set some massive goal. I'm going to hit the gym 5 days a week, no excuses. You go all in for a few days, and then, well, life happens. You miss a day, you feel guilty, and before you know it, you've slid right back in your old routine, feeling totally defeated. Well, here is the single biggest breakthrough from this book. The problem isn't you. It never was. It's not a lack of willpower. It's not a moral failing. The problem is your system. Your outcomes are just a lagging measure of your habits. Your net worth is a lagging measure of your financial habits. Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits. You see, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. So here's our game plan. We're going to dismantle that old, broken system and build a brand new one. First, we'll unpack that 1% compounding secret. Then we're going to diagnose exactly why you failed in the past. And trust me, it's a critical mistake almost everyone makes. After that, we are going to master the 4 laws of change. This is the real engine of the whole framework. Then we'll give you a super simple action plan you can literally start in the next 2 minutes. And finally, you'll learn how to become the architect of your own life. All right, let's start with the big idea. We're all taught that to get huge results, we need to take massive, earth-shattering action. We love the idea of the overnight success. But the author, James Clear, he argues this is just fundamentally wrong. He shows us that the most powerful and lasting changes come from what he calls atomic habits. These tiny, almost invisible daily choices that compound into something truly remarkable over time. This airplane analogy just nails the concept perfectly. Picture this. You're on a flight from Los Angeles to New York City. Now, if the pilot, right at takeoff, adjusts the plane's heading just 3.5 degrees south, a tiny, tiny shift you would never even feel as a passenger, you're not going to land in New York. You're going to end up hundreds of miles away in Washington, D.C. Your daily choices, your tiny habits, those are your 3.5-degree shifts. A small course correction today can land you in a completely different city, a completely different life 5 years from now. Okay, so if these small changes are so powerful, why on earth do we give up on them so easily? Well, it's because of this really important idea, the Plateau of Latent Potential. Think of an ice cube in a room. The temperature is slowly rising. It goes from 25 degrees to 26, 29, 31. You're putting in the work, right? The room is getting warmer, but that ice cube is just sitting there, looking exactly the same. It feels like absolutely nothing is happening, and you get discouraged. But then, you hit 32 degrees. Just one more degree, the same as all the others, suddenly unlocks this massive state change. The ice begins to melt. You see, your efforts were never wasted. They were just being stored. And this is why people quit. They stop 1 degree short of the breakthrough, not realizing all their hard work was building up potential just beneath the surface. All right, we get it. Small habits matter. But if we know this, why is it still so ridiculously hard to stick with them? James Clear says there are two big reasons. We're trying to change the wrong thing, and we're trying to change it in the wrong way. Let's tackle that first one, because honestly, it's the master key to making any change last. This chart right here, it flips our whole approach to goals completely on its head. See, almost everyone starts from the outside and tries to work their way in. They focus on the outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to finally write that novel. Then they might think about the process. Okay, I'll follow this diet plan, or I'm going to write 1,000 words a day. But they completely skip over the most important layer of all, their identity. And this is the secret sauce. Real, lasting behavior change is identity change. The reason so many of us fail is because we're trying to bolt a new habit onto an old identity, and it just creates friction. You can't be a person who doesn't work out and try to force yourself to hit the gym every single day. The real question we should be asking is not, what do I want to achieve, but who do I wish to become? Once you know the identity you want to build, like, I'm a healthy person, every little action you take becomes a vote, proving that new identity to yourself. So, if the big goal is to build an identity, how do we actually do it? Tactically, how do we cast those votes day in and day out? This brings us to the absolute heart of the book, a simple, practical, and basically foolproof framework called the 4 Laws of Behavior Change. Think of this as the user manual for your own brain. These 4 laws, these are the practical levers you can pull to engineer good habits right into your life, and, just as importantly, engineer the bad ones out. You don't need to become a different person overnight. You just need a better strategy. And this is that strategy, a step-by-step guide to making good habits pretty much irresistible. What is so powerful and honestly so brilliant about this system is its elegant symmetry. To build a good habit, you make the cues obvious, the craving attractive, the action easy, and the reward satisfying. Simple enough. But to break a bad habit, you just flip the laws on their head. You make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. It's a complete system for designing your behavior, finally giving you control over the habits that are shaping your life. And these 4 laws map directly onto the 4 stages that every single habit goes through. First, there's a cue that triggers your brain. Your phone buzzes. This leads to a craving. You wonder who messaged you. That craving then motivates a response. You pick up the phone, and that delivers a reward, the satisfaction of clearing that notification. The 4 laws are just a way to hack this entire process at every single stage, making that loop finally work for you instead of against you. But before we can hack that loop, we have to get this one critical distinction straight: motion versus action. This is the trap that keeps so many smart, capable people from ever making real progress. Motion is all the planning, the strategizing, the learning. It feels productive, but it doesn't actually produce a result. Reading 5 books on how to start a business, that's motion. Making your very first sales call, that's action. A university professor proved this beautifully. He split his photography class into 2 groups. The quantity group was graded just on the number of photos they took. The quality group was graded on submitting one single perfect photo. Well, at the end of the semester, guess where all the best photos came from? The quantity group. Why? Because they were busy taking action, experimenting, messing up, and learning from their mistakes, while the quality group just sat around theorizing about what perfection might look like. So let's put this into practice, starting with that first law: make it obvious. The Japanese railway system has this absolutely brilliant example. They use a safety method called pointing and calling. Instead of just looking at a signal, the operators physically point at it and call out its status loud. Signal is green. Now, I know it sounds simple, maybe even a little silly, but this one tiny action, making the cue obvious and conscious, reduced errors by a jaw-dropping 85% and cut accidents by 30%. It forces a habit that's normally unconscious into your conscious mind, where you actually have control over it. So how do you point and call in your own life? Well, the most powerful way is to design your environment. Your environment is this invisible hand that guides your choices, whether you realize it or not. Want to drink more water? Don't just hope you remember. Put a water bottle on every single desk and table in your house. Want to practice guitar more often? Don't keep it tucked away in a case in the closet. Put it on a stand right in the middle of your living room. You have to make the cues for your good habits totally obvious and the cues for your bad habits completely invisible. You see, most people are just consumers of the world others have designed. The masters of habit, they're the designers of their world. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but where do you actually start? right? How do you overcome that inertia, that procrastination that kills most habits before they even get off the ground? Well, the third law, make it easy, contains the single most powerful starting technique in this entire book, and it's the foundation of our immediate action plan. Here it is, the 2-minute rule. The whole idea is to downscale any habit you want to build until it takes less than 120 seconds to do. So, read before bed each night becomes read one page. Do 30 minutes of yoga becomes take out my yoga mat. Run 3 miles becomes put on my running shoes. Look, this isn't the final goal. It's what he calls a gateway habit. It seems way too small to matter, but what it does is it masters the art of just showing up, which is always the hardest part. A reader of the book actually used this to lose over 100 pounds. His role was that he had to go to the gym, but he wasn't allowed to stay for more than 5 minutes. For weeks, he just showed up, did a few reps, and left. And pretty soon, the habit of just going was automatic, and staying longer started to feel totally natural. And this slide shows you exactly how you scale up from there. This is called habit shaping. You don't try to jump from the couch straight to very hard. That is just a recipe for failure. No, you start with a 2-minute gateway habit. That very easy step, and you master it. Once turning off your devices by 10 p.m. is automatic, then you move to the next step. You standardize the beginning of the process before you even try to optimize the outcome. Opening my notebook is the gateway to writing a book. Master the gateway, and the rest will eventually follow. So, you've started. You're using the 4 laws, you've got the 2-minute rule, you're building some momentum. But how do you make it last for a lifetime, not just for a month? Well, this brings us full circle, right back to the most important concept of all, your identity. Success is not a finish line you cross. It's a system you improve, an endless process of refinement. It's about falling in love with the process itself, not just the prize at the end. It's that relentless commitment to the daily 1% improvement. The real goal isn't just to run one marathon. The real goal is to keep showing up on the days you don't feel like it, to just keep playing the game. And the real secret to making this last is to keep your identity flexible, not brittle. Think about it. If your entire identity is tied to being the point guard on the team, what happens when you get injured? Your whole sense of self just shatters. But if your identity is, I'm the type of person who is disciplined and a great teammate, well, you can apply that anywhere, in your next job, with your family, and some new hobby. Your identity becomes like water, flowing around obstacles, not some fragile thing that breaks the second it hits one. So, let's end with this one question. Forget about some monumental, life-altering overhaul for just a moment. Right now, based on the person you truly want to become, what is the single 2-minute atomic habit you can start today? What is that one tiny action that casts a vote for your new identity? Because one workout won't make you fit, and reading one page won't make you a reader, but every single action is a vote. And if you cast enough votes, the evidence becomes undeniable. You won't have to convince yourself you've changed. You'll know you have. And it all starts with that one small choice you're about to make right now.